All right, everyone, welcome to Strictly Baseball. I am Jacob Brown, joined here with Steve Cashin. We're going to talk about all the baseball transactions that have went on since we did our last pod, I think a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. And then we're going to do our top 5 first basemen. This is one of the first pod. Well, this is the first pod for Strictly Baseball, at least, that we're doing on YouTube. Strictly Hockey, Strictly Rangers, the last installments of those are on YouTube already. And then everything else I'm going to start doing on YouTube as well. I just figured it'd be a nice addition for everyone to get an extra option on how to watch our stuff. And because of that, my mom watched Strictly Hockey. She said, Jacob, you should have shaved. So I made sure to shave before Strictly Baseball. So there you go, Mom. I shaved. So let's go over these baseball moves. First of all, Steve, how you doing lately?
Doing good. Can't complain. The Bucks are in the Super Bowl. Yeah, it's the trifecta of, a shot at a title. So with the Rays unloading everyone, all their capital, losing Snell, some big pieces. Loop was signed with the Mets yesterday. Just small things for the Rays not going the right way, and it's trending to be a letdown season. But hey, I got other things to look forward to. But doing good.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch the Rays on Bally Sports this year. It's going to be it's a great watch.
Yeah, I don't know what the move is there. Like Fox Sports Sun's been a huge part of, I think, Tampa sports it's been Fox Sports Sun or forever, and now they switched over to Bally. It's going to be weird. Them the Lightning going to tell people, hey, I'm going to watch Bally Sports tonight. They'll be like, what are you talking about? It sounds like an Indian company.
That's weird. Yeah, I listen. I don't know why they made the move. It's definitely weird. I just hope I get the channel, because they took Fox Sports Sun and MLB Network off of Frontier where I live, and it kind of sucks. So I hope we get the channel back. All right, so let's go through the moves. The last one we left off on was Kurt Suzuki going to the Angels. And then the last question we put up there was, what would you think if Corey Kluber signs with the Yankees? And then like an hour after we posted that, Corey Kluber actually did sign with the New York Yankees, 1 year, $11 million. My first reaction to it was that, and I talked about it on Strictly Yankees with Mark, and you can go check that out. I thought it was a little too much money, to be honest. I get it. He's a two-time Cy Young Award winner. But the last 2 years, he has not pitched at all, really. So you're really counting on him to come back. The encouraging sign is that everyone said there were 25 teams at his workout. He was locating well with his pitches. His breaking stuff was still there. And the one thing about Kluber that you can say, yeah, maybe he did have arm surgery. First of all, the way he got it was the ball hit the elbow, and that's what happened. It wasn't from bad conditioning. It wasn't from throwing too much or arm strength. He literally got hit with a line drive in the arm, and that's what injured it. So it's not anything on his fault. And also, he was never a guy that threw 96 miles per hour. He was always a guy 90 to 94 tops. And then the rest of his pitches he kind of mixed in. He's not even really a fastball pitcher in general. He goes with most of his pitches anyway. So from that standpoint, maybe you shouldn't worry about the arm in itself, but not pitching for 2 years, it's a long time for anyone. What do you think about this? It does fill out a much needed hole for the Yankees, who have now lost Tanaka, Paxton, and Happ.
Yeah, so I was touching on it. It reminded me of the Eovaldi situation with Tampa. He takes a year off about elbow surgery, Tommy John, and Tampa takes a risk on him and reaps the rewards. And I said the same thing with the Yankees. It's a win-win on both sides. Kluber comes out, and it's a show-me year. Hey, I still have I can still do what I did in 16, 17, and 18. And if the Yankees, hit a home run here, it's a starter that they can fill into their rotation. It's something that they need desperately coming into the season. Need supporting cast around Garrett Cole, Tanaka not returning. Who went to Minnesota? Was it Happ? Happ that went to
Minnesota? Yeah, Jay Happ went, and Tanaka announced this morning he's going back to Japan.
Yeah, so that's two pieces right there of your rotation that's going to be missing. And we talked about Yerman. Is he going to come back and be the guy he was before he went on his domestic violence suspension? That hurt the Yankees mightily. He was throwing the ball really well. So a guy in Kluber right now, if you hit a home run here with this guy, it's going to be massive for their playoff run, and they're going to win you a lot of games. And looking at his stats here, 16 he went 18-9, 17, 18 and 4, and in 2018, 20-7. So if the Yankees are really banking off of, can we get that guy that had 3 great years of baseball? And in that run, he had 34 games started in 16, had 3 complete games, 2 shutouts. In 2017, 5 complete games and 3 shutouts. So a guy who can really, when he's on the money, it's not a guy you want to be facing when he's really feeling it. So I like the signing for the Yankees 100%.
Yeah, and I think the biggest details, what we've talked about a few times, that Boston was the other team that wanted him. And so if he had gone there and started doing things, that would have been a little rough. And I might as well skip to the Taillon trade, and then we'll backtrack in order because the Yankees also traded for Jameson Taillon. They traded away 4 prospects, Miguel Yajuri. Let me look at the Roansy Contreras, Michael Escato, and Cannon Smith, all in the Yankee top 25 prospects. They weren't really going to make a big league impact. So the Yankees are really, this is a second pitcher now they're taking a gamble on. Hasn't pitched in 2 years. He's gone through cancer. He's had 2 Tommy Johns. Him and Garrett Cole, really close friends. I've seen a lot of people talk about how they're really excited to pitch together again. But Taillon, in his last big year, I think his ERA was 3.32, 32 starts. So he's 29 years old, 6'5", amazing curveball. If you look up his highlights, his curveball is just that big loop-de-loop. So if he can get his stuff going back again, and you look at that rotation, once Severino gets back in June or July, that's Cole, Severino, Kluber, Taillon, and then either Davy Garcia or Jordan Montgomery or Clark Schmidt, who's the number 2 prospect. So a few weeks ago, you're looking at this and you're like, it's Cole and everyone else. Mm-hmm. You're still kind of halfway looking at it like that because you really don't. Severino could come back and completely struggle for 2 months. Corey Kluber might not be the same guy. So you still have some of the same questions, but at least you have name slots that you can put in there now and be like, okay, I feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, for sure. You're not right now banking off of guys like Jordan Montgomery, who still he's got things to prove at the major league level. He's on one night, off the other. So like you said, they're filling the names. They have depth now where you're not scrambling come spring training to sign a name to fill a 4th, 5th spot. So I like what they're doing here. Taillon, I think, what's Pittsburgh doing with these pitchers? Cole was a Pittsburgh Pirate. Glass now is a Pittsburgh Pirate. Taillon, I mean, they're letting these guys go. And right now, like in the same boat as Kluber, can he get back to his 2018 form, not 2 years out of the game? A guy who can throw the ball really well too. So his last full dose of games, like you said, Jacob, was he went 14-10 with a 3.2 ERA, 2 complete games, 1 shutout. So, and he started 32 games out of all the 32 appearances he had. Joining a guy like Garrett Cole, I think that really helps him. A guy he can pick a bone off of and kind of learn some things here and there. And it's a good 1-2 combo for them. They used to play together. They're good friends, and not a bad guy to learn from. One of the arguably the best pitcher in baseball the last 2-3 years. So not a bad guy to learn from. And like you said, I think right now the Yankees are slotting to be a pretty deep pitching rotation if everything goes the right way.
Yeah, it's just a matter of if. The Yankees also traded Adam Ottavino to the Boston Red Sox just to clear money, $9 million off the books. This was something initially I looked at and I was like, if you're going to trade someone to get rid of money, it's got to be Ottavino. A lot of people kind of underrate his year, other than that one game against the Blue Jays in Buffalo where he did not record an out and he gave up 6 runs. If you take that outing away, his ERA is still 2.89. Now, I do think he's had some, 2019, he had a great year, ERA under 2, all that. His walks were 5 per 9 still. So you look at that and you kind of get scared a little bit and you say, well, if the strikeout numbers go down and you're still walking people at that rate, that's when you're going to have problems. That's what happened in a short time span in 2020. Yankees are thinking, okay, we can clear him, get someone for cheaper that might do the same thing. And that's exactly what they did. They signed Darren O'Day yesterday, 1 year's $2.5 million, 38 years old or turning 38. Last year, only 8 games, 1 point something ERA. The year before, limited sample size, ERA under 2. And since 2012, he's been really consistent. Just every year has been a really good year for him since 2012. Not really that big of a risk. and the Yankees are clearing money so they can sign Brett Gardner again and maybe one other reliever. And after that, I mean, Yankees are still the Yankees, but the Blue Jays are really the team to talk about, and we'll get to them in a second. But you talk about the Ottavino and O'Day thing.
Yeah, I like the swap. I think the Yankees win that battle all day. We talked about we were texting each other when the deal went. Ottavino's going to Boston. I'm like, why would you trade in division? I mean, obviously they know more than we do. Darren O'Day, not a few hours later, Yankees released, hey, we signed O'Day to a contract. So I think right now, if you look at it, it's a good back end guy to have. To set up Chapman or however you want to dice it up in that bullpen. There's so many pieces the Yankees can dissect there. So looking at O'Day's stats, he's been lights out for the Braves the last 2 years. A 1.69 ERA in 8 games and 1.10 in 19 games appeared last year. So he's a guy who really commands his own. Not many guys can square up his stuff. So I think that's a
submarine.
Guy yeah, that's a guy I think the Yankees would love to have playing in a short porch. You don't really want to pitch to contact necessarily in Yankee Stadium, but he's a guy that you really can get a hold of. So I like the addition for New York, and I think for Ottavino too. He had a great 2 years before 2020. He was really throwing the ball really well, commanding the zone, and he just had a bad year. It was a short 60-game season, and everyone was giving him a hard time. And I remember watching that game where he didn't record it out, and I'm like, you feel for the guy. I mean, everyone was giving him a really hard time, and it happens. As a relief pitcher, you're not going to be stellar every night. And I think people started to get a book on him, I think, in division, and his stuff wasn't really getting by anyone anymore. So I think the Yankees won the battle, the trade deal here, or the trade-off, I should say, and it's a great addition for New York.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about the predictability of him. I mean, you basically know 2 strikes, he's going to try and go that big slider 3 times. I mean, he really doesn't have anything else. His cutter is good, but not great. It's not really a strikeout pitch, and he can't really jam people up in him with the fastball. It's just not a fastball that blows by. I mean, it's 94, but for some reason it doesn't get a lot of swings and misses. He kind of uses it more to paint the corners and get strikes. But it's always the slider on 2 strikes. So you're right. I mean, there's definitely a book on him to some degree.
Yeah, I noticed that in the DS when the Rays were facing off against the Yankees, and he came in for a few appearances, and I'm like, if you lay off his secondary stuff, make him throw make him come to you with the fastball, then you got him right where you want him. And 0-2, you know what's coming too. I'm like, I was getting frustrated because he dealt, I don't know what game it was. It was game 2 or 3 where he came in and he was just blowing it by guys. I'm like, if you just lay off his curveball slider, make him throw the fastball, attack. And I think they figured it out games 4 and 5 when he came in. I don't know. I've got to jog my memory, but I was noticing that with him. They got a book predictability, and as a relief pitcher, you got to mix it up. And I think a lot of guys were attacking that, and teams saw it and they cashed in on it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Another move that came in, former FAU shortstop CJ Chatham going from the Red Sox to the Phillies. So shout out to him. And then another trade. We talked about this one on Strictly Sports, so we can kind of breeze by it a little bit. Joe Musgrove to the Padres. It was a 3-way trade. So Joey Lucchesi went from the Padres to the Mets. And then 4 Padres prospects and 1 Mets prospect went to the Pirates for Joe Musgrove. This is a guy now, we've been talking about Strictly Sports. I thought maybe Mackenzie Gore, number 5 overall prospect, would get the 5th spot in the rotation. Looks like they're not ready to commit to that yet, and they're going to put Musgrove in that 5 spot for this year. So you're looking at Darvish, Snell, Lamet, Paddock, and Musgrove. It's a pretty damn good 5.
Yeah, the Padres have got the last infinity stone for their rotation. And, I don't know. There's nothing much more I could say about the Padres. Like I said, last pod, they're doing everything they need to do to prime themselves to compete with the Dodgers and ultimately take the defending champ down. I think as of right now, I think they're young, they're talented. They got a little bit of swag to them, and I think right now I have them winning the division. I just think the additions they've gotten from the Snell trade, getting Darvish, Musgrove, you have Lamet. That's going to be a tough rotation if they stay healthy to beat on a night in, night out basis. And with the Dodgers, we've seen struggles of Kershaw. Now that he's got his ring, is he gonna relax a little bit? Is he gonna have what are we gonna see from the Dodgers? Are they gonna be able to rebound and defend that title? But right now, I think the Padres it's full force going forward, and adding a guy like Musgrove to be in your fourth, fifth spot, it's not a bad guy to have back there.
Yeah, and not to mention about the Dodgers, they might lose Justin Turner still. Jock Peterson might be out, even though he had a bad year. Still a good bat to have. So they're definitely losing. And then Corey Seager, possibly they might trade him because they got to pay for other people. So we'll see about that. Also, John Lester to the Washington Nationals. So he, not retiring yet for some reason. He's with the Nats. Very old rotation. I think they're all in their 30s. Scherzer's like 37. Lester's about that old. Strasburg's like 32. But hey, I guess just put together a lot of experienced guys. They don't have a pitching system in the minor leagues, and that's what you get.
Yeah, I think for the Nationals, that's the only route you can go right now. Not many prospects ready to go that are big league ready. So add a guy like Lester who has experience and won a World Series title. So I think it's not a bad move, a 1-year deal. There's nothing, with these old guys, there's nothing you can lose, I think, really, in these moves. Is it going to work? Is it going to pan out? Great. If it does. If it doesn't, you release him mid-season and thanks for your time and let's move on. But this Nationals team, it's getting older, and I think the it's not closed by any stretch, but I think Strasburg, Scherzer, those guys are getting older, and in pitching, it's a weird dynamic. It comes and goes really quick, and you see guys that are on the top of the mountain, and you have 3-4 years. And Scherzer now, he's probably on the tail end of that run, but we'll see how it all plays out in a full. Last year, it's hard to dissect the season with how 2020 was. It was so short. We rode the Nationals off just because of naturally they weren't in contention. And now full 162. Let's see how they bounce back, and maybe they show us all that they're still ready to play.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. I mean, I was doing the top 10 starting pitchers. Usually Scherzer's in my top 3. This year, I only kept him in my top 10 because his name is Max Scherzer. I just gave him that respect because of the run. He's definitely in that tail end, though, because he struggled a little bit. Walks went up, home run rate went up, ERA went, so he's, 37 years old. It's just going to happen. And Strasburg missed the whole year. I still put him in the top 10. Same thing with Verlander. I was just like, these guys, you can't take them out just because they were injured. So we'll get to the starting pitcher list like a few pods from now. We'll talk about it then. I'm going to skip the Blue Jays for now because they've done so much that if I go out of order with their stuff, we're just going to lose track. So we'll just do the Blue Jays after. So we got Jose Quintana going to the Angels. We talked about it on Strictly Sports too. Do something to help Mike Trout eventually. We said, go get Tanaka and Bauer. Well, Tanaka's going back to Japan. That's official. And by the way, as a Yankee fan, thank you, Tanaka, for everything he did. 7 good years. Yeah. But Bauer, hey, even Bauer is still not enough. They don't got a bullpen. Their lineup's meh. At some point, the Angels have to look at themselves in the mirror and say, we're not going to win a championship ever with Mike Trout.
Yeah, we talked about this last pod, and I can go on like a rant for like an hour about the Angels and how I want to see Mike Trout play in the postseason just because he's the face of baseball, and no one seems to quite get that. He's in a really bad market, by the way, too, out there in LA. He's on the second team. He's on the second best LA team out there. The Dodgers obviously are one of the faces of baseball, historic franchise along with New York. But I think for Trout, he's got to either tell the organization, I need help, I need pitching, I need some run support around me, or I'm taking my talent somewhere else because I don't want to see at the end of the day Mike Trout's career get wasted and not see his potential in the postseason. It just gets tarnished. And I think for him, there's a window of I give it 1 more year. 1-2 more years, then I'm requesting a trade out because, like I said, you play the game to win a championship and to play in the postseason. And he hasn't gotten that opportunity. They've gotten close towards the end of the years. The last couple of years, they've been close to the wild card, but it just falls off short because they don't have enough talent to get there. And good signing with Quintana. It's not the A+ move.
Yeah.
It's not a Trevor Bauer, but it's something. It's not like you're getting some bum off the street. You're getting a guy who's played with the Cubs for 4 years now. 13-11 in 2018, 13-9 in 19, and last year
he was with the Cubs for 4 years.
Yeah, he's played with them in 17, 18, 19, and 20. 20, he only played 4 games with 1 start. So another question mark on the board with not a full slate last year. Well, how is he going to bounce back in 2021 with the full year? Is he going to be healthy? How's he going to throw the ball after almost a year off? So we'll see, but it's a good move by the Angels to get something out of this offseason so far.
Totally agree. Also, don't have to spend time on this either. Brantley back to the Astros, 2-32. I don't really like thinking about their team, so good for them. Jay Happ, 1 year, $8 million with the Twins. Set it out strictly sports too. Not worried about it. 38, 39 years old, throws 90 down the middle, and can't locate half of his starts. And then he goes on a nice run, and everyone's like, "Oh, Jay Happ's good again." And then he gets a good contract. Who cares?
Money chaser right now. I mean, I remember he was the guy who was like saying, was it him or Paxton that got sat down last year for the Yankees? Was it Paxton?
Yeah, Paxton was terrible the whole year and was injured like twice. And then Happ, he got sat down for a little bit because he walked like 7 people in 3 innings.
Yeah, they both were kind of on the same boat of like, why am I not playing? Or I need some more time. Well, you're walking the park and you're serving up you can't locate anything, and then when you locate it, it's getting sent 450 dead center. So change of scenery for Happ. So I mean,
big ballpark will help. Pitching in Target Field and Comerica and all that. Kansas City.
Exactly. Good for him that he's like I said, change of scenery could help him for the better. It could be for the better. Bigger ballpark, pitch to contact, and maybe he has a bounce back year, but not in division anymore. Good for him, and we'll see what happens.
Yep. So Jason Castro, catcher, went back to the Astros. He left for a few years. Anthony Bash, reliever from the Blue Jays, goes to Miami. He's actually pretty underrated. He pumps in cheese, nice breaking pitches. Not the best reliever, but pretty good. Austin Romine to the Cubs. He'll be their backup catcher for now. We don't know if they're going to trade Contreras yet. Kike Hernandez to the Boston Red Sox, along with Garrett Richards. Excuse me. Yeah, Kike, he's an interesting case. Offensively, up and down, but he plays every position. He's really clutch in the playoffs. The thing is, Boston's not going to go to the playoffs, so that doesn't really matter. And then Garrett Richards, 1 year, $10 million. They needed to fill. We made the jokes all last year that we compared every rotation to being Red Sox level. If they were bad, they had to make pieces and make moves. And Sale coming back eventually, then you go Sale, Evaldi, Martin Perez, Richards, and Rodriguez. That's not as bad.
Yeah, I'm kind of weary of the Red Sox this year. I'm kind of concerned for other teams because I think we wrote them off last year. And the Red Sox, they don't give up either. They'll fight you down to the wire. Even last year when they were bad, they were a tough team to play against some nights. They're going to battle and battle and battle because they can score. They still have a ton of firepower in that lineup. You have Bogarts. You have Kike Hernandez. You have is Vasquez still catching for them?
Yeah, Vasquez. They got JD Martinez, Verdugo.
Yeah, so that's a pretty solid lineup when you look at it. And so now you get Richards, and you have Sale coming back off injury. I think we all got to pump the brakes a little bit on the Red Sox. I was thinking about this last night, and I'm like, wow, this team was really decimated last year pitching wise. Now you get some help there. They can still score a ton of runs, but not saying that I'm not going to put them in the playoffs yet. But we'll see. Comes spring training, how everyone's starting to develop, get acclimated with the team. They're getting Cora back at the manager spot. I don't know. I'm not ready to ride the Red Sox off in 2021, but still a lot of things to be answered on that side of the bell.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Actually, I was thinking the same thing a few days ago. I was like, they can still hit. You get a few pitchers. I mean, before you're thinking maybe they're 500, now maybe they're an 85 win team. So that's a team that gives you trouble, that goes out there that think they can win every night. That's a thorn in your side.
Yeah, and then too, if they're competitive come trade deadline, if they're above 500 or they're competing for that wild card, who I don't think that they don't go and make a move and get another pitcher and hey, we'll give you a couple prospects to get a number 3 starter and we're going to solidify what we think is a good enough pitching staff already. So you can never count the Red Sox out. They've won their fair share of World Series titles as of late, last 10 years. So they know what they're doing. I said it, if any team was going to take a year off, 2020 was the year to really have a bad year. And they had a bad year, and now let's regroup full season. And it's all gas from here on out for the Red Sox.
Absolutely. Also, Brad Hand of the Washington Nationals, 1 year, 10 and a half. I was watching John Boy, and he's like, when he was out there on the waiver wire, someone could have gotten him for 1 year and 10, and he ends up signing for 1 year, 10 and a half. And he made a joke, and he's like, his agent was probably like, fuck you for not taking me at 10. I need 10 and a half or I'm not signing. It could have happened. I mean, who knows? But honestly, nobody talks about Brad Hand. I think he's absolutely a top 5 reliever. I think I have him at number 3 on my list. This dude gets it done in the 9th inning. The only thing is, and John Boy said this too, he's like, even though he's really good, when you get into the 9th inning and you're about to face Brad Hand, he's like, I get kind of giddy. I kind of feel that way too. Like you go into Brad Hand, you're like, well, like he's not dominating in terms of stuff. So if you can get a few runners on him, if you get it, work the count, he's, you can get to him. But 95% of the time, this dude is lights out.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because he is one of those guys where you think you can get him and you get up to the plate, and you don't know how to attack.
Yeah.
I think that's the mindset for hitters is how do we attack this guy? Because we know that he's going to throw you strikes. He's going to attack the zone, but how are we going to maneuver around and get a guy on base and get him off his game? And that's a great point you made is when you get guys when are on first and second, make him pitch, in pressure situations, that's when you can score runs off Brad Hand. But when he has the bases cleared, it's like facing Chapman or any of the best relievers in the game. You give a guy a clean slate, he's going to mow you down 1, 2, 3. See ya, we're going home. But for the Nationals, I mean, it's a good sign. I like Brad Hand. He's been a consistent throughout his whole career. He's been in the league since 2011. The last couple of years, 2.05 ERA with 21 games finished, and in 2019 he went 6-4 with a 3.3 ERA and 60 appearances. So I really like his stuff. It's a good depth signing, and I think I was surprised not many people had their eye on him for a long time, and I think Washington wins that battle there.
I definitely agree, and they kind of needed a legit closer too. They wanted to ride the wave of Daniel Hudson as a closer because they want to ring with that, and now Doolittle's gone, so you needed that extra reliever. Also, JT Real Muto re-signs with the Phillies, 5 years, $115 million, so he got paid. Number 1 catcher in baseball. Philly, we were talking about it. We were like, and I was thinking about this the other day. If we had never heard the rumor about Philly not having money to sign people, we would have been saying he's going back to the Phillies. That's the only reason why you and I were sitting here like, well, if the Phillies can't get him, the only other team that really fits is the Angels. So if we hadn't heard that rumor, we would have been saying he's going back to the Phillies the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, this was pretty much inevitable. I told you that the other day. I showed you a text once the news broke. It was once McCann signed with the Mets, he was kind of like, damn, that was he. I think Real Muto was going, hey, I'm going to go to New York. I'm going to go there and play. I'm going to get a big contract there. I'm going to change scenery. And after that, it was either stay home in Philly or the Angels they're looking for depth in the catching spot and some run production. It would have been a great addition for the Angels if they were to maneuver a deal. But he's staying in Philly for 5 more years. Got a 115 was the number, right?
Yeah,
on that
5
contract?
and 115.
So it's a great number for him. It's going to make a boatload of money. And it's a safety net for him in the Phillies organization. Now you have him for 5 years. He could be trade bait for 5 years, really, if anyone needs a catcher at that at any time. So it's a hard position to come by if teams free up some money and they need him come postseason. That's a guy that could be on the market every year for his tenure or the rest of the way in Philly, that he could be trade bait.
Yeah, and Joe Girardi loves him. Joe Girardi's a former catcher. He loves that he can call a good game. He's probably the best defensive catcher in the league. He's literally the full pack, great base runner even for a catcher. And then, you look at that Philly lineup. Now that he's back, you can say, well, you got Harper coming off a great year, 2 great years really for Harper. And then Alec Boehm and Rhys Hoskins and McCutchen. So they've got some dudes out there. And then shortstop's a little bit of a vacancy. Most people are assuming now that Andrelton Simmons and Freddie Galvis, which we'll get to in a second, they both signed. Pretty much inevitable that Didi's going to go back to Philly as well. But we'll see about that. Also, Tommy La Stella to the San Francisco Giants, 3-year deal. This is a guy, another really underrated guy. I have him in my top 10 second baseman. He can play a lot of positions, third, first, maybe even a little bit of outfield. This is a guy that's hit over 300 the last 2 or 3 years, puts together a little bit of power, but in short sample sizes. And for a team like San Francisco, it's worth it to get a guy like this.
Well, I was checking Twitter there. Who's this that signed?
Tommy La Stella with San Francisco, 3-year deal.
Oh yeah, I mean that's great for San Fran. I was talking about them. We talked about him briefly on the last pod. A team last year that fought pretty hard. A team that didn't really give up. They competed. They were there in contention in most games. It was funny because, with baseball being such a short season last year, I was craving baseball. We were waiting for the season to start. I was watching every game every day just about, and I was watching San Fran, and they're young, they're gritty, and I think adding a guy like La Stella adds some depth for them. And they have a long way to go. They still need to gather 4 or 5 more guys like that to really get where they want to be and compete again, and get guys to be like, hey, San Francisco's back, they're winning ball games. And that's the key for them. They got to start winning again consistently for guys to really want to go out there and either finish their career or make a bridge deal for 2 years and move on somewhere else. But they need pitching as well on their side. So still a lot to do, but it's a good signing with La Stella there.
Yeah, it's one of those moves where you go, it can't really fail. It's going to probably succeed. And even if he's not the 300 hitter type of guy, he can fill holes for you literally every position. So that's a big thing for them. Also, Andrelton Simmons to the Twins. I initially looked at this. I'm like, don't they have Jorge Polanco? But then I saw all the insiders tweeting about it. They said Polanco's like really bad defensively at shortstop. So they're going to move him to second. Simmons will play short. And you look at that defense on the left side of Donaldson and Simmons, that might be the best left side defense you could possibly put out there. Both Gold Glovers. Simmons is regarded as one of the best defensive shortstop over the last 20, 30 years. It's no exaggeration. He's that good defensively. The bat, he'll give you, average stats. And then the Twins are going to sit a rise, kind of use him as a utility guy, just a pure contact guy, virtually no power, just a guy who gets base hits. So what do you think about the Simmons signing?
Yeah, it bolsters your defense on the left side. Like you said, you have Donaldson, and now you have Simmons. I've been a big fan of Andrelton Simmons. He not a flashy guy, but if he gets on base, if his OBP is high, he's getting on, he's stealing bases. He's really one of those guys you're just using for defense. Like I said, he's going to save you runs. He's not going to really do anything crazy out in the field where he's going to, like I say, he's going to save you runs, save you hits, and that's what you want on defense. And average stats last 2 years, he batted 297 and 264. Basically, he's a career 270 hitter, which as a shortstop, not bad. You want him to be around 275, 280. Can't complain. So if he can, increase his numbers a little bit in Minnesota, then it's a win. But I think you already won that acquisition with him and Donaldson complementing each other on that left side. So it'll be exciting to watch over there in Minnesota, and see what happens.
The big thing though is they need to get Nelson Cruz back. Pretty incredible that at 40, turning 41, he's still, I mean, you look at his
Raking.
stat. Oh yeah. Like MVP level, amazing stats for like 8 straight years now from like 34 plus. That's why, like, when people are like, oh, your prime's 27 to 30, like, who care? I mean, look at Nelson Cruz, 34 plus. He's better than he was in his 20s.
It was funny. I think last year we were watching a few games, and my dad he was like, he sees Nelson Cruz hit one like 420, like dead center, and he's like, that guy's still playing. And I'm like, yeah, somehow he's still at a high level too. It's not like he's just kind of mulling around and getting by. He's a tough out to get by, and if he can still continue to play at this level, I mean, we're talking about one of the best hitters, to come to the game the last 10, 15 years. So if they can get him back, that's a huge addition. That's a lot of runs, a lot of run production. And I think Minnesota needs that if they want to get back to the postseason, because their pitching's it's okay, but I think they really rely on scoring a ton of runs every night and winning that way. So getting Cruz back is huge in that regard.
Yeah, and you bring up the pitching. They don't have Maeda or Odorizzi, at least right now, because they're free agents. So that's huge. Like, if you don't get both those guys back, you're in trouble town with the rotation.
Yeah, you're happy with getting one of the two back, but you're satisfied, but you're not thrilled. If you're a Twins fan, you want both those guys back. I think you can get Odorizzi back on a 2-year deal. At worst, you're getting him at a 1-year deal, 1 year, 10 mil, right around there, I would say. And then Maeda, kind of the same ballpark. I'd be giving him 2-3 years. But if you're Minnesota, you want to get those guys back to help your pitching staff out, and you need depth there in that position. So still some question marks surrounding them, but I think they're still in good shape regardless.
Yeah, yep. We'll see if they get those guys back. Wilson Ramos, cheap deal to the Tigers. Really down year last year. He was top 10 catcher before that, but not a great year at all. Just filling a hole there. They're not going to win many games. Like I mentioned, Freddie Galvis, decent player, switch hitter, shortstop, puts up decent numbers. He'll be the Orioles shortstop. I kind of liken him to when they had Jonathan VR, kind of the same concept, switch hitter, basically the same player. So I like it for that standpoint. You mentioned earlier Aaron Luke to the Mets, really filled in nice for the Rays, and the Mets quietly building a nice mini revamped bullpen, getting Trevor May and some other guys. So good for them. And then also, so now we can get to the Blue Jays. We'll start off with their worst move so far, because they made like 12 of them. So they traded last night Sean Reed-Foley, Yenzi Diaz, and Josh Winkowski to the New York Mets in exchange for Steven Matz. Matz did not have a great year at all last year. He was pretty bad. But, if they can get him in even close to where he used to be, like a 4 ERA pitcher, the Blue Jays just needed a number 5 starter. So if Matz can be a number 5 guy, it's worth it for them. Sean Reed-Foley, they had kind of been going rotation, bullpen, not really a committed role. They obviously didn't want him as the 5 starter, so they're willing to take the project on Matz.
Yeah, it's kind of a deal that works out on both sides. Blue Jays get prospects, and they get rid of a guy in Matz that really didn't have a good year for him. So if you're the Mets too, you're just like you said, you're looking for a fifth hole guy that can work out. So it's a very, I think it's a minor deal for both sides. Who do I think wins the deal? I think Toronto wins the deal. You get 3 prospects that you can.
No. It's the Blue Jays that got Matz.
Blue Jays. Jeez, got that backwards. Blue Jays get Matz. Mets get the prospects. So I think. God, now. So I think it goes both ways. The Blue Jays get a 5th hole guy that. Let's see what happens. And they have enough run production with the Blue Jays that you don't really have to worry about. You don't have to worry about shutting teams out. If you go out there and throw me a stat line of you give up 3-4 runs, I'm still confident we can win that ball game. And then the Mets, they get prospects, and hopefully they can build those guys up and go from there. So I think it's pretty even deal. It's an even trade off for both sides. The Blue Jays have already made a plethora of deals that this is, just another addition to what they've already, had a great offseason and a great team that they already are, young, talented, and just adding to that. They're doing what the Padres are doing. It's a win now mentality. And I think what you're seeing now in the MLB is it's such a hard league to win in. It's so long that why not just sell out and let's just, build the team up for 2-3 years and let's try to win a World Series, because baseball is just such a hard – I think it's one of the hardest trophies to win in all of sports, because it's the attrition level is – you've got to go 162, and then you got to battle it out in either you make the wild card, you're one and done after a long season. You have a 5-game series. You don't get a 7-game series once you win that, the wild card series. And then you get to play 2 7-game series. It's brutal. And I think more teams need to, model it their off seasons after this. Just build up, sell out, and let's try to win now.
Yeah, like other teams should look at this. I mean, it's also good for the fan base. I mean, if you're a fan base, would you rather say, I'd rather wait 7 years in between good runs, or would I rather get 2 to 3 year spurts than 4 years of struggle? And then I'd rather have it on a cycle. Like if I knew my team was in that range, that's what I would want. And so I love it from the Blue Jays. They also signed Kirby Yates, 1 year, $8 million. He can be their closer. Ken Giles out for the year. He's a free agent. So now they get Yates. Yates was out all of last year, but the 2 years before that, might have been the best reliever in baseball. He was absolutely incredible. So, if he comes back and is anywhere close to that guy, lights out in the 9th inning. And now we'll get to the big stuff that they did. So they signed George Springer to a big 6-year, $50 million contract. So now he's their new center fielder. And then they signed Marcus Semien to a free agent deal, who last year was going for the MVP. In 2019, he was an MVP candidate. 2020, not good at all. But they're asking him now, go to second base. And now we can kind of go over this whole roster. So now you have Lourdes Gurriel in left field, in my mind, top 10 left fielder. George Springer in center, top 3 center fielder. You have Teoscar Hernandez, top 10 right fielder. Kevin Biggio, third base. At second base, he's top 5. At third base, he's borderline top 10. Then you have Bo Bichette, borderline top 10 at shortstop. Semien, if he's back to par, he's a top 10 second baseman. Then Vlad Jr. at first. And now they have a catching prospect coming up, Alejandro Kirk. He might be a top 10 catcher with the way that you look at the catcher position. And then you go rotation. You have Ryu, Pearson, Roark, Robbie Ray, and Steve Matz, and then Yates in the bullpen. This is a complete team now.
Yeah, it's like a night and day. This team was legit last year, and I said it every time the Rays played the Blue Jays. And even when the Yankees are playing, I'll tell you, watch out. This team's dangerous. They can score.
I mean, they made the damn playoffs.
They did. They made the playoffs. They ran to the Rays to just in a 3-game series. If that's 7 games, they lost the first 2 games. They go back home. Then you never know what happens. It was only a 3-game set, and those were not blowouts. They were close games for a while, and the Rays kind of opened the door late in those 2 games that they won. But young, they got, like I said, they got experience in the postseason. That's what you want from guys like Biggio, Bichette, Vlad Jr., guys that now they go, hey, we've been there. We know what it's like. We faced a team that just went to the World Series and lost to the Dodgers, but a team that was really primed and ready to win a World Series, the Blue Jays fought hard against all year. So that's encouraging. And now you've bolstered that lineup with Springer, and you have Semien, and you got Matz in the fifth hole in your rotation. I mean, good Lord, this team's going to be it scares me, because this team right now I think would be the favorite to win the division. I mean, them in New York.
Yeah. I mean,
you guys are going to be battling it out, because you guys are the Yankees. You have that star power throughout the lineup, but now the Blue Jays are right there with you. But can those young guys, though, here's the question with the Blue Jays, can those young guys, sophomore years last year, third year now, let's elevate our game just a little bit. And if they can do that, watch out for this Blue Jays team, because I really like Springer's bat. And now that he's not with Houston, I can like the guy now, but he's in division, go figure. But he hits the ball hard. He's a hard out to get. He hits the ball hard up the middle. Doesn't strike out a ton. He battles, he fights, and same way with Semien. He has power. Both those guys do, and adding them to your lineup, and you can do pretty much virtually whatever you want with this Toronto lineup, and it's going to be fun to watch. Unfortunately, it's in division, and we're going to have some bad blood for how many games we play this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, just listening to you, I mean, you start to think like 1 through 9. and through that lineup, they could all be studs. I mean, literally all of them. I went over the diamond. I mean, all top 10 position guys, some of these rookies already, and they haven't even reached their full potentials. And then you got Vlad Jr., who hasn't really done much, but he came out. He was supposed to be the best of the bunch. He could end up being a generational hitter. And then you have Semien if he goes back to MVP form, and Bobish. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's really insane.
And then you have Grichuk. What are you going to do with him?
Yeah, like he's in a DH platoon with Tellez as of right now.
Yeah, you could platoon him, and then what happens if you could go and trade him?
Yeah, I would.
You could go and trade him and get something. You can get even more than what you have. I mean, It's crazy. You're in a position where you have so much going for you that you have too many guys. You don't know where to put them, and that's not a bad problem to have, especially in baseball. The more the merrier, and that's how you win championships in the major leagues. It's depth, it's talent, it's the combination of both, and they have it, and it's going to be scary this year. I just hope they get second place. That's all I'll say. And the Yankees get first. So let's go over these top 10 first basemen. We got I've been doing these lists for a few weeks. Every time I look at it, I end up reordering it. So this is really just it's just a general top 10, and then whatever 1 through 10 is, it's very subjective. I basically, the way I did it, and I had conversations with my dad about this, about how much do you value 2020? Because there's some guys that had really bad years that have been top 5 guys for 5-6 years now. And then you're going on 2020, such a short sample size, when in a 162 game season, that's a 2-month time span. And you wouldn't even know if they had, say 4 months of the season, they were great. Those 2 months, you wouldn't even think about those other 2 months. So it's about how do you weigh it? And I had some trouble with that. I mean, we might be looking at these next year and been like, wow, 2020 really was a fluke. So let's, the way we'll do it this week, we'll list our 1 through 10, just 1 through 10 straight, and then we'll kind of argue in the ranks there. So at number 10, I slid in Brandon Belt from the San Francisco Giants. 2019 below league average player just by this much, just by a little. 319 WOBA, 99 weighted run created plus, so just below. And he had 17 homers, 57 ribbies. But this year in 51 games, I mean, he was like a Hall of Famer. I mean, 9 home runs, 30 RBIs, 425 on base, 173 weighted run created plus, 427 WOBA. I mean, you're 100 points over in league average in WOBA. That's pretty incredible. So, the reason I put him at number 10, how much do you trust this? It's 51 games. He's been below league average for basically since they were winning World Series. So I have Belt at 10. Number 9, I have Matt Olson. 2019 was fantastic. 36 home runs, 91 RBIs. This year, though, he hit 195. On base was 310, 14 homers, 42. The reason I kept him is he kept that power and he kept that production. So I think 2021, extended period of time, he'll be back. Max Muncy, number 8. This is a guy that had been top 5 for 5 straight years. 35 bombs, 98 ribbies, and 19. This year, though, he hit 192. Below league average stats in WOBA, only a 331 on base, 12 home runs, 27 ribbies. The reason I kept him in the top 10, that track record, also in the playoffs in 18 games, 14 RBIs, 438 on base with 3 home runs in the playoffs. So he was still contributing, and now he's a World Series champ. At number 7, I have Rhys Hoskins. 2019, 29 bombs, 85 ribbies, 364 on base, above league average. This year he comes in, he goes a lot better. 41 games, 10 home runs, 26 RBIs, 384 on base, 382 WOBA. So he really overperformed, and he's just entering his prime, or the, quote unquote, theoretical prime at 27 years old. I have Rizzo at number 6, 293, 27 and 94, 405 on base in 2019. This year went he went way down to just above league average, hit 222. And the reason I kept him out of the top 5 is just because of how great the top 5 is. I have Goldschmidt at number 5. This is a guy in 19, 390 WOBA, 27 bombs, 94 ribbies, comes in this year. Excuse me, I got the number wrong. 346 and 346. And then 2020 comes in with a 417 on base,
hitting 300. Woba is up there. Weighted run created plus is up there. This is a guy, too, just like Rizzo. He's been doing it every year, and he had a better 2020. That's why I put him above Rizzo. Number 4, I have Pete Alonso. I loved his 2019. We all know about that. 2020, he definitely dipped a little lower. But who has a problem with 16 homers, 35 RBIs? I don't. I like Pete Alonso a lot. I have Luke Voigt at number 3. 2019, a lot of people complained about his 19 when really the last 2 months he had all those problems with the core issues. This year he was an MVP player, 393 WOBA, 152 weighted run created plus, 22 home runs, 52 RBIs in only 56 games. He actually had more home runs in 56 games in 2020 than he did in 2019. Then I have Jose Abreu, won the American League MVP, and I have him at number 2. This is a guy, I mean, I don't know why. I kept him out of my top 10 last year, even though every single year this guy's 30 and 100, 30 and 100, 30 and 100. And then this year he goes AWOL. I mean, 19 home runs, 60 RBIs in 60 games. That's an RBI per game. On base was 370. WOBA was 411. And then, of course, I have Freddie Freeman, the National League MVP, undisputed number 1 first baseman in baseball. Also with him, I mean, 462 on base, 53 RBIs in 60 games. You can't say anything about Freddie Freeman. So that is my top 10. And then just missing, I had Hosmer just missing because 4 or 5 straight years now below league average. This year comes out of nowhere. And then I actually have Ryan Mountcastle right on the edge on the Orioles. He came in 35 games, short sample size, 333, 5 and 23. So he can do that again. And then missing off my list from last year, Josh Bell, Carlos Santana, and Miguel Sano, all off my list from last year. So, Steve, it's your turn. Give your top 10.
Yeah. So, I really agree with, like I said, these rankings. We can dice it up anyway. We can put everyone has a shot at, 2, 3, 4. It's just how preference. How do we value 2020? How do we value, past stats? So, at number 10, I got Carlos Santana. I put him there at number 10 just because he's been doing it for since 2010. He's been in the league. Career 250 hitter. Last year, 8 home runs, 30 RBIs. 2019, he had 34 homers, 93 RBIs, 108 walks. Guy gets on base. He can hit for power. So I think he was deserving of the number 10 spot just because he's been doing it for quite a long time now. Number 9, I got Rhys Hoskins. I think people would say a little bit low. MLB Pipeline had him at number 9. I think, he's done it for 3 years now at a high level, 10 homers, 36 RBIs last year, 19, 29, 85 with 116 walks, 18, he had 34 and 96. So he's doing it at a high level. Only 3 years. Can he back it up this year? If he backs it up with the same numbers from 18, 19, he's going to skyrocket in my rankings. Number 8, Matt Olson. You weighed on his stats. I'm not going to be repetitive with the WOBA and weighted run created plus. 2020, 14 homers, 42 RBIs. He's been doing it as a consistent, on a consistent basis. 19, 18, and 17, he was averaging, around 30 homers, 36 and 91 and 19, 29 and 84 and 18. And in 2017, 24 homers, 45 RBIs. So a guy that's really been a big run producer for the Athletics. He's one of my favorite guys to watch the plate. He's a smooth swing. He's not an easy out. He's puts the ball in play consistently. So I like him at the 8th spot. Number 7, I got Max Muncy. Just a guy who I don't really, quite believe in yet. A lot of guys, people have him high, but I think Muncy, a guy that's, 2020, 12 homers, 27 RBIs, 19, 35 homers, 90 RBIs, 90 walks. I want to see him get back to that 2018 level before I, put him into anywhere close to my top 5. I think there's a lot of guys above him that have produced at a more consistent rate. So at number 6, I've got Pete Alonso, playing high school. A little shout out there. Yeah, my alumni, a guy who's really taken the league by storm. People would say it was a down year for him. 16 homers, 35 RBIs, which is kind of ludicrous if you want to think that way in a shortened season. But 2019, 53 homers, 120 RBIs, walked 72 times. And his rookie season was something, out of a storybook. And that was crazy. A guy that had that success right out of the gate. Number 5, Anthony Rizzo. Can't say enough about him. Plays great defense, all around great hitter. Yeah, down year in 2020, but the whole Cubs lineup had a down year. He's been doing it for 5+ years. From 16 on, he's averaging in 2016 32 homers, 2017 32 homers, 18, 19, and 20, 25, 27, and 20 and 11 homers respectively. He's averaging right around 100 RBIs a season. I mean, can you ask for more from a first baseman? No, I don't think you can. And number 4, I got Paul Goldschmidt. No, number 4, sorry, Jose Abreu. I gave Goldschmidt the nod just because he's done it a little bit longer than Abreu. I think they're neck and neck in terms of talent. Abreu's going to be, if he can replicate his numbers his first couple years, he's going to be top 3 for years to come. Goldschmidt's done it for his whole career. The guy who's knocked in 100 RBIs consistently for 4 or 5 years straight. So that's why I gave him the nod over Abreu. Number 2, Luke Voit. I'm going to say it. He's number 2 on my list. I was looking at his numbers. For a guy who's only been in the league for 3.5, 4 years, 2020, he had 22 homers, 52 RBIs, batted .277. Does have a strikeout problem, but I think if you can cut that number in half, those numbers will increase drastically. 19, he had 21 homers and 62 RBIs. That's 2 years of really good appearances at the plate. At 2020, he eclipsed his numbers in a significantly shorter time period than 2019. So if he can, stay on pace of that 2020, that tear he had, what do you think he can do this coming year? I think he's on pace to hit 45, 50 homers if he can replicate his numbers last year. And then number 1, Freddie Freeman, unanimous, like you said, Jacob, guy who's been remarkable at the first base position. You laid out his numbers. He batting, last year 13 homers, 53 RBIs, batted .341. His OPS 101, 1.102, I should say. 2019, he had 38 jacks, 121 RBIs with a .295 average, and he's been lights out at that position for years on hand. And I don't see him slowing down at any point. I think last year people kind of counted him out in the beginning. He was going through some stuff, and he bounced back pretty nice, had a great run in the playoffs, ultimately came up short, but he's a generational talent out there at first base.
Yeah, so I mean, our lists are pretty close. I mean, you put on Santana, I put on Belt. It does make me think because I took the 1 year flyer on Belt. You're going with the track record. I mean, I'm starting to think maybe that should be the mindset to have because 2020 is such a weird year. Why am I going to look at him and be like, oh, Santana hit under 200. He's off my top 10. But he's also with the Royals. Who knows how he does in that lineup? We'll see with that. But our lists are pretty similar. And your list, I was looking up the MLB Network list while you were talking. Yours is almost identical to theirs. You have the same players. So MLB Network, they call it the shredder. They put all these players in a sabermetric system, and then they spit out in a ranking. So they had Santana at 10, then Hoskins at 9. So I think you had that. They had Olsen at 8, Alonso at 7, Rizzo at 6, Muncy at 5, Abreu 4, Voit 3, Goldschmidt 2, Freeman 1. So your list is really close to theirs.
Yeah, I was because they valued some guys because I looked at that after I made my list. I go and look at what they put, and they value, like you said, they put it in their. I think they value their tenure of what they've done. Like Goldschmidt, I thought had an average year last year, but I dove deeper and I'm like, wow, this guy's been doing it for years now, and he's been lights out at that spot, and I can't knock him for 2020 because it's a shortened year. Can you disregard the whole year? No, you can't. You still play the same talent, the same teams. And
well, I mean, 2020 still. I mean, his WOBA was 387, and weighted on created plus, 146. So those are pretty above league average, and his on base was 417. Yeah. So the power is what's went way down.
Mm-hmm, exactly. But it was really hard for me to really rank them in order because I can make, like we said, you can make arguments for all these guys to be, number 4. The number 3 guy can be easily number 6 in 1 year. So the first base position is really getting loaded up with talent, and more guys are starting to really be comfortable in that position. Like Luke Voigt, did we see him coming out of the weeds a couple years ago? No, that's a guy that wasn't even on my radar, and now he's one of the best power hitters in the game right now. And hey, who knows what he's going to do this year? I'm really excited to watch him. Even though he plays for the Yankees, we're going to see him, too many times. He's a hard out to get. Like in that run the Rays made in that DS series, every time he got up to the plate, I was sweating because he would foul ball straight back, and he's almost on every pitch. It seems like he's over the plate. It seems like, how am I going to strike this guy out? He doesn't have a hole in his bat. So I'm really excited to see what Voigt, can contribute this year, because his numbers last year were something else.
His discipline is what really impressed. I know he has the strikeout problem, but that's every power hitter. He lays off pitches like with no hesitation. Like some guys, they'll lay it off and they'll give like a little body flip. He'll lay off pitches and just stand still. Like he just knows.
He's out there and guys are throwing him. They'll throw him a nasty slider and he'll lay off that. And then you throw him a fastball just outside the outside black. And he just sits there, and you're like, how do you not swing at that, dude? Like, that looks perfect. But hats off to him. It's great discipline. And I think last year he was on pace for, 50 jacks in a 162-game season. So if you can stay disciplined, like I said, and cut that strikeout number in half, dude, he's going to be lights out.
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, even 19 would have been better. I mean, literally, post-July, he was playing with torn muscles in his core. So he had under 200 with 3 homers in 2 months.
Yeah, I forgot to make that point when I was going through his numbers. He's been battling injuries for even last year. He was going through a little bit through a stretch with his ankle.
The foot. He played with a bad foot the whole year.
So I mean, this guy healthy? I don't know. It's just it's exciting, and if he can just the whole Yankees roster themselves just stay healthy. Don't stop lifting weights. Stanton, Judge, whatever workout regimen, stay healthy this year. I'm waiting for that news to break before spring training starts.
It's happening. It's 100% happening.
Yeah, Aaron Judge has a shoulder problem. Oh, go figure.
Yeah, hey, they just put the video out of him doing BP yesterday, and it's like, I'm not happy yet. I want to see him on opening day. And, it's just so frustrating. And that's why they need Gardner, too, because there's I'd say 75% of Yankee fans, there's in every offseason they're like, Gardner sucks. We don't need Gardner anymore. He's old. He can't hit. And then halfway through the year, he's putting together good ABs. Someone's injured. He's putting together a great stretch. And they're like, oh, we love Gardy. He's been with us forever. It's like Yankee fans are so bipolar. The whole offseason I've been like, keep Gardy. He's going to be there for you. Even if he's not hitting like he used to, he's going to get a full count every at-bat. He's going to foul pitches off. He's going to work the pitcher. Good defense. Great clubhouse guy. He's been with the Yankees forever. There's no reason not to keep Gardy around. He's going to be cheaper this year too. So I see no reason why not to do it.
Yeah, he stays. He gets on base. On base. He plays good enough defense, and like I said, he's been around for a long time. He's a good clubhouse guy. I don't know. I've never met anyone that hates Brett Gardner. I mean, I personally don't like him because he gets on. He's a pain in the ass to get out, and he's quick. So I mean if that's the reason why you hit a guy and you don't want to be on a team, like I don't know why Yankees fans wouldn't want him to be around, because he's a platoon guy. He knows who he is. He knows he's not playing every night. He's there to pinch hit, steal bases, pinch run, do whatever the team needs him to do to win. And I think he wouldn't want to leave. I think he wants to come back, and I don't know why you wouldn't want him there.
Yeah, it ends up happening every single offseason. He's always the last move. And there's fans make a joke, like his agent just leaves the phone on the table, tells him, okay, you figure out what you need to do financially, and we'll be waiting for the call in February. It happens every year with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's ridiculous that it takes them that long to pull the trigger. I think they're waiting on either someone else to roll around that can replace him. But
I think it's mainly they're like, okay, we need to sign everyone else first and see what our budget is. Like it's just, we need to wait on it.
Rightfully so. I think you look at it. There's more important pieces to the puzzle to win you a championship. The Yankees need pitching. They tackled that problem right now, and then everything else comes second. So I completely agree there.
All right. So We did a long one today. I think like an hour and a half. We went over top 10 first base, all the baseball moves that went on. And really the only big move we're waiting for now is Trevor Bauer. So we're waiting on that. A lot of insiders are saying he might do the announcement on his YouTube channel, which is so Trevor Bauer. Can't wait to see where he signs. But everyone else is signed, and we're just waiting for the season now. So next week or whenever we do the next one, probably not next week because we're going to be doing the Super Bowl Radio Row. Won't have much time for it. We'll be doing top 10 second baseman next time out. And just let you know, Steve, we're not putting Biggio in there because now he's in third base. So we can't do that. I'm going to have to take him out. And so Semion's eligible, no Biggio for that list. So you guys can check us out on Instagram at Strictly Sports Productions, on Facebook at that ad as well, and on Twitter at Strictly Sports P. We're on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, all the good stuff. So you can find us all on that. And for Steve Cash and I am Jacob Brown. We will see you next time.